Hello again, and thanks for tuning in to episode 9 of the Planette Trail. Okay, this one's called Injustice. So it's getting to the point where there could be a chance that men who are non-violent and self-actualized may be able to leave Earth too and go somewhere where they can chill and do hard work and not have to worry about injustice. We have a character named Nehemiah, who the cops are after him because they don't like his speech regarding injustice. So we'll see what happened to Nehemiah. I'm going to tell y'all something. This one is a little more suspenseful than some of the other ones that y'all done seen. Even though this is a sci-fi series, I still got to add a little suspense in there the same way I put a little romance in there. Okay? And even a little more fighting. Y'all will see that later on. Okay, enjoy. I'll see you at episode 10 and check it out. Introduction to the Planette Trail, where women work, where women rest, where girls learn, where there are no men from Earth who will survive, where battles are fought, the Planette Trail. Episode 9, Scene 1.
Brotherhood of the struggle hood, I stand before you to condemn the oppressor for his murder, his kidnapping, his lying, his thievery, and hypocrisy.
Nehemiah Khalid, a 32-year-old black man, stood at the lectern on stage, speaking to an auditorium of nearly 8,000 people. His speeches drew large crowds. He'd entered the scene almost out of nowhere, and most people referred to him as Malcolm X resurrected. He had a powerful voice, and his message was more powerful.
Is this? Therefore, we must lead ourselves out of poverty, the enslavement of our minds, throw off the shackles of colonialism that has held us captive for more than 400 years through blood, sweat, and tears, and death. With every breath we took, pain and the stain of inferiority we must throw off of our backs. The only way. I said the only way.
Yeah, preach, brother.
The only way to accomplish that is to start to love ourselves and separate ourselves from the oppressor. I said, look at your brother or sister beside you and tell them you love them. Because the only solution...
Come on, brother, where's the solution?
I said the only solution to unity is love.
The audience cheered for over 5 minutes. Nehemiah was feeling quite elated. He had started a movement called Justice is Coming. He had begun the movement in 2019, just before the pandemic. Now that it was the latter part of 2021, people were coming out more, attending events. His crowds were in the neighborhood of between 8,000 to 15,000 plus, depending on the venue. The crowds were getting larger. Once the speech was done, he met several of his close associates near the lobby of the arena. Man, another powerful speech. That's what's up. Devin said as they slapped hands. Broy, his other friend, joined in. Yeah, really powerful. You got the community's attention. Yeah, man, I know. World, it's not by my own power that I speak, brothers. Nehemiah said humbly. Where you headed now? Broy asked. Home, brother. Straight home. Why don't Devin and I follow you home? Make sure everything is okay. Oh, no, that's all right, man. I think I'll be all right. But Broy did not agree. Things were starting to heat up, and he saw that a week ago when they had been asked to leave a coffee shop because one of the employees called the police on them. They were simply sitting at their computers, enjoying a cup of coffee. When they asked the police why they had to leave, the cops simply told them they didn't want any problems. It was now 2021, and there were still a few sundown towns in North Carolina. Nehemiah never understood how far they've come in the way of civil rights, but how far they still had to go. He got into his car and left Charlotte, headed to his hometown in Wilson, North Carolina, 3 hours away. He was passing through Kinley and was almost home when he spotted flashing blue lights behind him. His heart started racing. He could hear it in his ears. He pulled over immediately. He had already taken out his registration, insurance, and driver's license. He slid down his window and placed his hands firmly on the steering wheel. There were 2 police cars. He watched through the rearview mirror as they approached his vehicle on both sides. He knew this was not going to turn out well. He could hear their footsteps as they approached. With each step they took to his vehicle, another bead of sweat formed on his face. It was already warm outside. The road was dark, and the only people out there were him and those cops. Scene 2. Yukai and Eke landed on Dark Planet. They had their defense weapons on them. After what Andiet had told them about those brooches, they knew they could not take any chances, but his love for Camille would send him into the most dangerous regions of the universe. They strapped on the lights and made the trek towards the mines and caves where the diamonds were. The place was dark, cold, and scary. Are we almost there? Eke asked. He was not too enthused about visiting Dark Planet, but he would not allow his brother to go at it alone. We have about a kilometer to go, Yukai said. The place was so dark they could not see anything that they did not shine their light on. They approached a dark mine. What's in here other than diamonds? Eke asked. He had never been on that planet before. Gold, copper, many things. Do you think maybe we should make it worth the trip and collect some of those too? But Yukai thought anything for Camille was worth the trip, although he did not argue with his brother about that. They removed their backpacks once they entered the cave. Once inside were diamonds the size of golf balls and gold balls the same size. Eke collected copper, which would enable them to use electricity on their planet. Once they stuffed their backpacks, they set off on the journey back to the ship. They would have landed closer to the mines and caves, but it would upset the ground in that region. They suddenly heard a growl. Both men stopped, not knowing which direction it was coming from. "Did you hear that?" "Shh," Yukai said as he stood still, and Did had given them some tips on how to survive on Dark Planet. They heard another growl. Yukai slowly released his defense weapon, and as soon as he did, one of them leaped onto Eke, knocking him to the ground. Yukai fired on the beast, putting it to sleep. He then helped his brother up and said, "Are you okay, brother? It bit me on the arm." Soon, 3 more surrounded them. They were close enough where the men's lights were picking up their images. They were frightening to look at. Yukai thought of his sister, and if she could survive for decades without weapons, they should be able to. The men stood back to back as they trained their weapons at the beast. They growled, slowly moving in. Eke shot one of them, and the other lunged at Yukai. Eke was able to take that one down. The third one took off running, and the men ran towards their ship. They were within 10 yards of the ship when one of them leaped on Eke, knocking him to the ground. Eke and Yukai wrestled with it. Yukai didn't shoot because he did not want to accidentally shoot his brother. It seemed like an hour they wrestled with that thing until they were able to subdue it, finally putting it out of its misery. Yukai had hurt his leg fighting that thing, and Eke helped him onto the ship, and they closed the door. Yukai pulled out the first aid box, opened it, and began tending to the wound Eke had sustained. "I think we should have taken more guys, Yukai." "It's okay. We made it to the ship safely enough." "I know, but we should never do this alone again. Andiet had warned us." They started up the spaceship and took off, heading back to Flap. 1525 at 1272, and we are headed back to Flap. Scene 3. "Where do you think you're off to, boy?" One of the police officers said. "My name is Nehemiah Khalid, and I am on my way home." "License and registration." The other officer spoke up. Nehemiah handed him the information. He had it already handy for them. "Have I broken any laws?" "Yeah. All that garbage preaching you be doing, boy." The officers had seen the latest speech broadcast on TV. "Free speech is not against the law, sir," Nehemiah countered. "Step out of the vehicle," the officer ordered as he snatched the car door open. "You still have not told me why you pulled me over." "Out of the car, nigger!" Nehemiah started emerging from the vehicle. "Careful now, nice and slow," the other officer said, his hand resting on his gun on his right side. Nehemiah continued slowly easing out of the vehicle, and that's when they began beating him. Nehemiah fought back as much as he could, but they had him on the ground. He hollered out, but they kept beating him. He was finally able to get off the ground. One of them drew his weapon, but the other one stopped him. "Not with your service weapon, Tommy. Get Catherine out the trunk." The officer referred to a personal shotgun as Catherine. The officer ran back to his car to get Catherine, and that gave Nehemiah time to scurry and get away. He ran through a set of trees across the road. He could not see in front of him, but something just told him to keep running as he could hear their footsteps behind him and the shock of a weapon. He felt something whiz past his head and he kept running. He stumbled and almost fell, but he kept pushing. He'd run so far that it became quiet. He did not know where he was. The only thing around him was dense darkness. And if it wasn't for the moon, he wouldn't be able to see anything. Trees surrounded him. His heart was pounding and his breathing was erratic. He could not hear anything except crickets and frogs, maybe. He sunk down against a tree, trying to catch his breath, and that's when he realized something sturdy was in his pocket. He still had his phone. He prayed he would get a signal. He turned it on. There was only one bar. Hopefully that would be enough for him to call his mother. Scene 4. And once you pour in the oil, it will mend with the laurel juice from the laurel plant. Oki explained to Ruby as he showed her how to make laurel sip wine. Did you bring enough to Krell for me to make more? She asked. I brought enough to plant and raise a whole vine. I know you did not think I would, as you earth people say, leave you hanging, did you? Oki, you are so funny. You are too, Ruby, and very pretty. Silence hung over the room as she stopped cold. It had been decades since a male told her that. She was still cautious, but not as much as she would have been with a male from Earth. I'm just Ruby, that's it, she said, brushing off his comment. But although she tried to play it off, he said, and Ruby is just beautiful. I'm sorry, I was about to call you Yukai. Oki. All these young, beautiful women on Krell, and you think I'm beautiful? Ruby, a man's choice may seem obvious, Ruby, but a man who chooses a woman based on her heart and not what his eyes merely see is a wise man, one who sees her heart and not just her outer appearance. Ruby was totally taken aback. Where in the world did all that come from? Okay, then what? He slowly closed the distance between them and said, we take it in a positive direction, Ruby. You know what that means. Well, can I think about it? Sure, take your time. Okay. So when will the wine be ready to drink? Give it about a month, maybe about 45 days, as you say, give or take. I cannot wait, Oki. What you make tastes very well. And I just... When her phone went off, she went to answer. Ruby, this is Carlith. Oh my God. The woman said. Carlith was new to Krell, only having moved there a few months ago. Hello, Carlith. How are you? Are you okay? I'm worried. My son Nehemiah just called and said the cops pulled him over, beat him, and tried to kill him. He's hiding in the woods in a place right outside of Wilson, North Carolina. Ruby, hold on. I am sorry to hear that. I'm really sorry. Calm down, Carlith. Hold on. Ruby was familiar with her son. He was a civil rights political activist. He was an exceptional young man, unlike most of the men on earth who had not reached self-actualization. Is there something that can be done about this? Listen, Ruby, my son is a generous young man. I understand, Carleth, and it probably, listen, but he cannot survive here on Krell. You know that. Oh, goodness. I'm sorry, Carleth, but there won't be anything I can do. I wish I could. Oki, having heard the conversation, piped in and said, Ruby, there is no reason he cannot come to Flep. Ruby heard his voice behind her. She turned around. Oki was standing there holding his drink. He closed the distance, and she said, Are you sure? No Earth male had ever been on Flap. That was one thing nobody had ever tried before. Yes, I am sure. Where is he? Are you still there, Ruby? Carleth broke in. Time was running against her son. She wanted him safe as soon as possible. Yes, I'm still here. May I please speak to Carleth? Ruby handed him the phone. Hello, Carleth. This is Oki. Who is this? This is Oki. Oh, hi, Oki. Give me the location of your son and I will go down and get him and bring him to Flep. Oh, thank you. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. I will go and get him. He was able to pin the location of her son using the son's phone number she gave him. Oki was able to determine exactly where he was using his phasing watch. You be careful. Earth is a very dangerous place. I will, Ruby. Don't you worry about me. And he was gone. Ruby did not know what came over her, but Oki had an effect on her that she had never felt. She purposed to shake herself back to reality, but for some reason, she could not get this man out of her head. Scene 5. Nehemiah knew daylight would be coming up soon. He stayed where he was, careful not to make a sound. No telling if those racist cops would be returning to finish him. Out of nowhere, a man appeared before him. It frightened him, and he was about to run, but the man did not seem like he was there to do any harm. Who are you? Nehemiah asked. I am Oki, and I've come to save you. Nehemiah thought he was dreaming. He thought maybe he had fallen asleep. Save me. Save me. How are you going to save me unless you can get me out of here? Can you take me anywhere? Can you get me out of here? I will take you to Flep. Flep? What? Wait a minute. Hold up. No, man, I'm not going anywhere with you. Your mother is on Krell. She sent me to help. Her name is Carleth. Nehemiah realized the man was telling the truth. Are you taking me to my mother? I thought no men were allowed there. No, I am taking you to a planet that is in the same solar system as your mother. Your mother, Carleth, called Krell's leader. I was there when she received a phone call. Flep is where you will stay. Nehemiah knew there was no way to survive other than to leave. He would take his chances on this strange man before taking his chances with those racist cops. Although his work was not finished on Earth, he would have to figure that out later. His mission was to save his people. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go, man. Oki stepped closer to him, held out his hand. Nehemiah took the other man's hand, and he felt a strange feeling. He opened his eyes. He and the man were in a strange place. Homes surrounded them, and about a half dozen men who looked like Oki were standing there. He wondered if he'd made a mistake, because he did not see one man who looked like he had any African ancestry. He could not tell what they were, if they were East Indian, Arabic, or Italian. Then he asked, "Where in the world am I at?" "You are on Flep." Oki spoke up. "Where are all the brothers at?" "We are all the brothers, sir," Ukai said. Then Nehemiah said, "Black men. I'm talking about black men." "Black men? What is a black man?" "Me. I'm a black man." Oki drew closer and said, "You do not look black. You would be umber. Your mother will be here soon. I have signaled Krell for her to arrive." "Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate that. You say your name is Oki. Yeah, I appreciate that." Nehemiah offered his hand to Oki, and they shook hands. "You are welcome. After you meet with your mother, you need to explain to us why there is so much injustice on your planet." "I would be happy to. How much time you got?" Scene 6. Jackie showed up at Ruby's house with Andiette. "You must be awfully bored right now, Andiette. I hardly see you anymore."
I miss you too, Aunt Ruby.
Andiette said as they hugged. "How is Luki, and where is she?"
She is on Flip helping Ukai with something.
Ruby knew this had something to do with the diamond Ukai was planning to give Camille. "So, what's this about you and Oki?" Jackie asked Ruby. She knew her friend all too well. "Surprisingly, I really like him, but I'm not sure I should get my heart involved." "Ruby, you said yourself they are different from Earthmen. What is wrong with at least being good friends until..." "That's the thing, Jackie. We have become good friends."
How does that make you feel, Ruby?
"Delighted, happy, and scared all at the same time, Andiette."
Why do you feel scared?
"Because this is uncharted waters for me, Andiette.
And you have nothing to fear?
At some point, I wouldn't, but it's the unknown."
I understand, Ruby, but if you stop applying what you know about Earthmen to Fleppians, you will be just fine.
"You just make everything seem so simple, Andiette. How do you do it?" Jackie asked.
Because things are simpler than you think. Ruby, you will be fine. Allow your friendship with my brother to flourish and you will be fine.
"I suppose I cannot dispute that, and I thank you both for being such good friends and so supportive." "Well, that's always, Ruby. That is always going to be the case." "So, any word on the young man from Earth who Oki took to Flep?"
Yes, they are interviewing him now. Fleppians prefer information, lots of information. They need to know all about him in order to decide if he should stay or be returned.